Great to have you with us tonight. This is the story that has me fired up. Don't you just love this number, Republicans? Not really. 60% is one hell of a number right now. America has $4 a gallon gas, 9% unemployment, some say even higher than that. We've got a record number of foreclosures, but 60% of Americans still believe that the President of the United States is taking this country on the correct path. The number scares the living daylights out of Republicans. Conservatives, they are desperate to do anything to politically damage this president and take him down before 2012. You see, Fox News has spent the last 24 hours trying to scare their old white viewers about a rapper named Common performing at a poem ceremony at the White House tonight. Now, we're going to have a lot more on this tonight, this Fox race baiting, later on in the show. But let's get back to what the president is doing. Hey, it's the campaign season. When the president goes out on the trail, he's going to be talking about where the country is and what has been accomplished. President Obama has actually accomplished quite a bit in the first couple of years, more than most presidents accomplish in an entire term. The president talked about the administration's, the country's accomplishments at a fundraiser in Austin, Texas last night. Listen up.
We have made incredible progress. Sometimes folks forget. Progress shouldn't make us complacent, but it should remind us that change is possible.
Thank you for getting bin Laden.
Well, there you go. Case in point.
See that guy in the crowd? Thank you for getting bin Laden. Now, the righties might be saying, well, he's a plant. Yeah, right. He is exactly correct. Every American should be thanking President Obama for the death of the #1 terrorist on the face of the earth. Now, later in the speech, the president, what did he do? He spread the credit around.
We're taking the fight to al-Qaeda. And because of the extraordinary bravery of the men and women who wear this nation's uniform and the outstanding work of our intelligence agencies, Osama bin Laden will never again threaten the United States of America.
Now, is the president not supposed to talk about that on the campaign trail? The president has every right to use bin Laden's name on the campaign trail, but Republicans, you see, they're trying to spin it now as a victory lap. Slanthead Hannity, he launched a preemptive attack on the president's speech on Monday night. Here we go.
Especially as the president goes on his I Killed Osama victory tour, which I don't have any problem with, spiking the football, to use his terms.
The president never said he was going to spike the football or go on some kind of a victory tour. Now, Hannity, of course, we all know was the top Bush bootlicker, probably of all of them, when W spiked the ball on the 50-yard line on the deck of the USS Abraham Lincoln. But, of course, Hannity can't bring himself to admit that the president of the United States now got that ball across the goal line and got the #1 terrorist. And today, of course, Hannity's buddy, the drugster, he attacked the president for bringing up bin Laden's name in Texas.
Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, our brave young president has added his heroic killing of bin Laden to his campaign stump speech, which means every speech that he is giving. He's practically dredged up the body of bin Laden so he can campaign with it. Obama and bin Laden appear in El Paso is an appropriate. And it's kind of like, you remember the movie Weekend with Bernie?
All this proves is that the right wing, they are completely out of material, and the best thing they have is to criticize the president, because the president obviously is going to talk about getting bin Laden because the American people love what happened. And I hope he does it at every campaign stop across America. Buckle up, righties. Jay Carney agrees with Big Eddie.
I can't predict to you what will be in the content of the president's speeches going forward, but I certainly think what he said last night was entirely appropriate. The president believes that good policy is why he came. Good policy is good politics, but that's why he's here. That's why he wanted to be president. That's why he ran.
So Republicans, just go ahead and knock the president of the United States for running on the war on terror. It won't work. We went through the archives here at MSNBC to find Republicans doing the same damn thing. It took about 6 seconds to find this dandy, not even in our archives, but on YouTube.
Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein. Saddam 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 Saddam
Saddam Hussein.
War and danger. Continuing danger. Hour of danger. Very, very dangerous world. A grave new threat. Horrific acts of atrocities. Murderous regimes dedicating to killing us. Tyranny and terror. Slaughtered thousands. Weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction. Weapons programs.
The deadliest of weapons.
Terrible weapons. Nuclear weapons.
Nuclear weapons.
Poison gas. Torture chambers. Mass graves.
Deadly technologies.
Radical ideology of hate.
Terror of threats.
Terror.
Terror.
Terror. War on terrorism. War against terrorism.
Global war on terror.
Global terrorism. 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 Terrorism.
Oh, yeah. You see, all those clips were from the biggest campaign event of the Bush presidency, the 2004 Republican National Convention. Republicans held their convention, may I remind you, just a couple of miles from Ground Zero. They wrote the book on politicizing the war on terror. Bush and Cheney were on a 7-year victory tour on their failed policies. Now, let's just reverse this just a little bit. Now, back in 2004, Vice President Cheney was at a town hall meeting, and he said that we couldn't change horses in midstream, and I didn't know what the heck that meant. But then he went on to say that if we didn't vote for them, and if we didn't vote for them, we were going to get hit again. I will never forget that because the Kerry camp never really responded to it. That's what Cheney said. If we don't vote for them, we're going to get hit again. Well, you know, what is their record on terror? But think about President Obama on the campaign trail. What if President Obama were to go out starting tomorrow and saying, you know what? We got the #1 terrorist on the face of the earth. We got the guy who was responsible for hitting us on 9/11, but there's a new guy, and if you don't vote for me, you know, we could get hit again. Doesn't sound right, does it? Well, he wouldn't stoop so low, because he really couldn't credibly make that point, because who can predict the future on what's going to happen? But, of course, the right wing can. Republican candidates can. They can look into their crystal ball and say, hey, if you don't vote for us, we're going to get hit again. So I think President Obama should take the liberty to go out on the campaign trail and say, you know what? We got the main dude that hurt America and killed a lot of Americans, and they got a new guy, and if you don't elect us, the Democrats, heck, we might get hit again. What do you think they'd be saying at Fox then? We got hit on their watch, did we not? They were wrong about weapons of mass destruction, no question about it. They lost thousands of lives and billions of dollars in Iraq. Are you for that invasion tonight? Still no conclusion in Afghanistan, and President Obama was handed that. And, of course, we're going to have to remind them that they didn't get bin Laden. So the campaign trail is now, and the campaign season is in full swing, and we're going to remind you as often as we can just exactly what the righties said about the, quote, war on terror when they wanted the White House. I think it's very appropriate for the president to say we did something really good for the world by taking down Osama bin Laden, and say it on the campaign trail. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's text question: would George W. Bush have used bin Laden's death in campaigns if he was able to get bin Laden? You know what? I think I'm going to get in on this one tonight. Text A for yes, text B for no to 622-639. And, of course, you can always go to our blog at ed.msnbc.com, and I'll bring you the results later on in the show. I'm texting A on this one tonight. Joining us now is Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, former Chief of Staff of Colin Powell and currently a visiting professor at the College of William and Mary. He joins us tonight from Washington, D.C. Colonel, good to have you with us. Do Republicans really have any grounds to attack President Obama when he is talking about the death of Osama bin Laden based on the clips that we just showed? What do you think?
Well, I was looking at your run-up and listening to the Fox commentators and Limbaugh and others, and I just want to laugh. I appointed myself the task of watching President George W. Bush's speeches when I became Chief of Staff at the State Department, principally to see if there was anything that I could pick up on that we hadn't picked up on in official correspondence or NSC meetings or whatever. And the language that was used then was clearly the language of the politics of fear. It reminded me of the MacArthur era, which I actually grew up through, too. And terms like wanted, dead, or alive, you're either with us or you're with the terrorists, axis of evil, and so forth, were just sort of the apotheosis of this kind of cowboy language. There's no doubt in my mind that George W. Bush and Karl Rove in particular would be recommending this, would be exploiting the death of bin Laden to the nth degree if they had in effect brought it about. But as you pointed out, they didn't.
They did not. Do you think that there might have been a plan to exploit it, or would they have been winging it just with tremendous pride, maybe taking that victory lap that Fox was talking about?
No, I think it was quite the opposite. I don't think they really wanted to get bin Laden. And it's an interesting bit of scholarship, I think, for historians to try and calculate exactly why that occurred, but I don't think they wanted to get bin Laden. You could be very cynical and say they didn't want to get him because once you got him, the war was over. And that left all the political advantage gone. Or you could say that they knew that it was almost an impossibility to get him, given what they had done to the intelligence and other aspects of the government that you needed to get him. They just about ruined it. Whatever reason, I don't think they really wanted bin Laden. They said they didn't.
Well, I want to ask you, did you hear any rumblings in government circles that maybe he's not the priority and he's really not a big deal? Because just 6 months after we were hit, President Bush came out and said, I don't know where he is. I don't think about it.
The things I heard the president say and the vice president say and the actions I saw that flowed from those statements indicated to me that bin Laden was not even on the top 10 of the priority list in the global war on terror.
Dick Cheney wants the president to bring back waterboarding. This is what he told Chris Wallace on Fox. Here it is.
Should the president reinstate enhanced interrogation, including waterboarding?
Well, I certainly would advocate it. I'd be a strong supporter of it. We went to a lot of trouble to find out what we could do, how far we could go, what was legal, and so forth. And out of that emerged what we called enhanced interrogation, and it worked.
So on one hand, they're going after President Obama for mentioning bin Laden, but then on the other hand, they're out there saying, well, we have to do the waterboarding, and we certainly hope he reinstates it. What's your response to this?
Well, both the president and the vice president have now admitted to war crimes. Whether you're looking at domestic law or you're looking at international law, they've admitted to war crimes. Waterboarding is a war crime. So that's a very interesting situation for the vice president and the president to put themselves in. It's also nonsense. Waterboarding and the enhanced interrogation techniques that went along with it, so far as I could tell when I was in the administration, while it might have on occasion produced some intelligence, actionable or not, it didn't produce a string or a consistent series of intelligence items that were actionable to the point that they could actually bring about some significant successes in the war on terror. What did that was persistent and professional and rapport-building interrogation and the things that went along with it, the intelligence mechanisms and intelligence capabilities that went along with it. That's what brought along the successes that we've seen in the war on terror. And we got bin Laden after waterboarding was stopped.
Yes. The AP is reporting tonight that bin Laden never gave up control of al-Qaeda, and also his journal has been confiscated by intelligence by the intelligence community. What do you think President Obama could be saying about this? This was a pretty rich target, and it's been a would we say a great find?
It probably is a great find. I understand from my contacts in the intelligence community that it's quite a bit, and it will take some time to go through it because, as you might imagine, a lot of it's not in English, and they've got to get multiple translations to make sure they've got the right read on it, the right perspective. But I suspect if bin Laden was still in at least titular control of al-Qaeda in Saudi Arabia, for example, in Yemen, in the Maghreb, and elsewhere in the world where they still remain somewhat formidable, Somalia, for example, that this may be a treasure trove and may help us wrap up the final remnants of al-Qaeda.
Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, always a pleasure. Great to have you with us tonight here on The Ed Show. Thank you.